Okay, so today we are going to work on graphing these equations. Based on what we did yesterday, hopefully you remember how to find your slope and find your y-intercept and write your equation of a line. But now we're going to use that and then graph it. But we have to remember that one of the steps for graphing was to make sure that it's in the form y equals mx plus b. If it is not in the form y equals mx plus b, then we cannot graph the line. So what your goal would be to try and get your y value all by itself. So in order to move the mx and to move your y-intercept b, you're going to use inverse operations, which is how we solved equations, to move from side to side. So if it's a positive, then you're going to subtract. If it's a negative, you're going to add. If it's multiplied, you're going to divide. And if it's divided, you're going to multiply in order to move things from left to right. So our first equation. If we look at this one, this is not in the form y equals mx plus b. It's almost, but not exactly. So our y value is where we want it to be on the left side, but we need to move the negative 3x to the right side. We want it to be right here. So we are going to add 3x to make that cancel. We cannot add 3x to 19, so our equation is y equals 3x plus 19, and that is in the form y equals mx plus b. Number 2, our y value is on the left side where we want it to be, but it's got a 2 multiplied to it. So you deal with that last, so just wait. Okay, you need to move the negative 8x first before you do anything with this one. So I'm going to add 8x on both sides, because I want that to cancel. So then I get 2y. I want the positive 8x first, so I'm going to write that first. And then I want that positive 20 last. Now I can deal with the y and get that by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2 since that's multiplied by 2. And you have to be careful because every single term needs to be divided by 2. So then we would get y equals 4x plus 10. And then that equation we can graph. Number 3. We need to get our y term on the left side. The 21x, the mx part is where we want it to be. The 15, we need to get it on that side as well. So we can do this all in one step. So we want to move that negative 3y to the left first. So we're going to add 3y. And we want to move the 15 to the right, so we're going to subtract 15. So now we have 3y is equal to 21x minus 15. And now to get y by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 3, which means we need to divide every term by 3. And we get y equals 7x minus 5. And that equation we can graph. Number 4, the y term is on the correct side. The constant is on the correct side, but the 5x term, we need to get it to the right. So we're going to do the opposite operation, which would be to subtract 5x on both sides. So we have negative 6y is equal to, we want the mx part to be first, which would be a negative 5x. And we want the 22 to be last. And now to solve for y, we're going to divide everything by negative 6. Remember, that's every term by negative 6. Negative 5 divided by negative 6 is a positive 5/6x. And then 22 divided by negative 6 will simplify to a negative 11/3. On number 5, everything is exactly where we want it to be except that negative that is multiplied to y. So we are going to divide by negative 1, which means that we have to divide every term by negative 1 to get y equals 7x minus 32. Number 6, the y term is on the correct side, but the x term and the constant are not. So we need those to switch, this is on the right side. The constant is not on the correct side. So we need to move that over there by subtracting 42 on both sides. And we get 7y is equal to negative 14x minus 42. And now to solve for y, we can divide both sides by 7 to get y is equal to negative 2x minus 6. And that we can go graph. So why do we need that skill? Well, we need it so that we can graph an equation. We could not graph any of those equations that we had because they were not in the form y equals mx plus b. All right, so now we're gonna actually go through and graph these, but they gotta be in slope-intercept form first. And if they're not, we're gonna do all of that we did up there to get it before we graph it. So we have y equals 2x plus 5. That is in slope-intercept form, so I don't need to do anything to that. My slope is 2. I'm going to write it as a fraction because that's what we talked about doing yesterday. Our y-intercept is 5, which would be the order pair 0, 5. So to graph that equation, I plot my y-intercept. And I use my slope to do rise over run to get the rest of the points. So I'm going to rise 2 and run 1, rise 2 and run 1. That would be up 2, right 1. That only got me half of it, so I need to do the exact opposite, which would be down 2 and left 1. And I'm going to fill up my entire graph. And then we would draw a straight line with arrows on the end. Number 2, let's see, is our equation in slope-intercept form? It is not, because it's got a negative right here. So in order to get rid of that -1, I'm going to divide both sides by -1 to get y equals a -2/3 x minus 4. So I'm going to write my slope as a fraction, which it already is. My y-intercept is 0, -4. This slope as -2/3 means I'm going to go down 2 and right 3. So I'm going to graph my y-intercept first and then move down 2 and right 3, down 2 and right 3, down 2 and right 3, and then to get the rest of it, I'm going to do the exact opposite, which would be up 2 and left 3. And you're going to keep doing that until you fill up the entire graph, and then you will draw a straight line with arrows on the end. Okay, we just have a couple more here. Number 3, hopefully you look at that and say, okay, that's not in slope-intercept form, so I cannot graph it. The y term is on the correct side. The -4x term needs to be on the right side. So to do that, I'm going to add 4x to both sides. And we get 3y is equal to, we want the 4x to be first, and we want the 12 to be last, because that would be mx plus b form. And then we're going to divide every single term by 3 to give us y equals 4/3 x plus 4. So my slope is already a fraction. That means I'm going to go up 4 and right 3. And my y-intercept is the order pair 0, 4. So I'm going to graph that y-intercept first, and then I'm going to go up 4 and right 3. And then I got to do the exact opposite, which would be down 4 and left 3. And you're going to make sure that you fill up your entire graph. And then you're going to draw a straight line with arrows. Number 3, our term with the y is on the right side, but we need the term with the x to be on the other side. So I'm going to subtract 5x on both sides to do that. And then I'm left with 2y is equal to, we want the -5x. We want that first. That's the mx part. We want the -10 last. That's our y-intercept. And then we're going to divide both sides by 2 to get rid of that. And we get y equals -5/2 x minus 5. So my slope is already a fraction. That means I'm going to go down 2 and right, or down 5 and right 2. And my y-intercept is 0, -5. So I'm going to graph that y-intercept. And I'm going to go down 5 and right 2. And to get the other half, I'm going to go up 5 and left 2, the exact opposite. And I'm going to fill up the whole graph when I do that. And then we're going to draw a straight line with arrows. Okay, so this last skill, we're going to write the equation of the lines in slope-intercept form with whatever information we're given. So on number 1, we are given M, which is good, and we're given an ordered pair. So that means that we need to find B. And in order to find B, we're going to use our equation, y equals mx plus b, plug in m, plug in the ordered pair for x and y, and solve for b. So I'm going to plug in -4 for y. I'm going to plug in a -5/3 for m and 1 for x. So I get -4 is equal to a -5/3 plus b, because that's what -5/3 times 1 would be. So in order to solve for b, I need to add 5/3 on both sides. So that's going to be -4 plus 5/3 is equal to b. In order to add those, you can just use a calculator. So we have -4 plus 5/3. Oh. And then we want to make that a fraction. And we get that b is equal to a -7/3. And now we can write our equation. So it would be y equals -5/3 x minus 7/3. Number 2, we are only given 2 ordered pairs. So this goes back to what we did the other day. We are going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2. We want to then find m and b, since we're not given either. So we're going to first find our slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which would be 6 minus a -9 over 2 minus a -1. We'll do keep, change to get 15. Keep, change to get 15 over 3. So our slope is 5. And now we are going to use our equation, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to use the positive ordered pair 2, 6. Plug in 6 for y, 5 for m, 2 for x, and now we'll solve for b. 6 is equal to 10 plus b. I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides to get that b is equal to -4. So now I have m, I have b. I can write my equation, y equals 5x minus 4. And then I could go graph that. Number 3, we have a slope of 0 and an ordered pair, -1, -4. So if we have our slope and we have an ordered pair, that means all we need to do is find b. So we are going to plug in the ordered pair and our slope into our equation. We get -4 is equal to 0 times -1 plus b, which would be -4 is equal to 0 plus b. So -4 is equal to b. If it is a slope of 0, that means it is a horizontal line, which has the equation y equals whatever your y-intercept is, which was -4. In number 4, we have 2 ordered pairs, which means that we need to find m and b. So we are going to label x1, y1, x2, y2, and we will find our slope first. That would be 4 minus 8 over -3 minus 3. 4 minus 8 is a -4 over -3 minus 3. We would keep, change to get -6. And a negative divided by negative is a positive, and that would simplify to 2/3. So now that we have m, we can find b. I'm going to use our positive ordered pair to plug into our equation. So that would be 8 is equal to 2/3 times 3 plus b. 2/3 times 3 is equal to 2. And then we will subtract 2 on both sides to get that b is equal to 6. So our equation is y equals 2/3 x plus 6. And then we could go graph that. Last one, we have 2 ordered pairs, so that means that we need to find m and b. So we'll label them x1, y1, x2, y2, Plug it into our formula. We get negative 9 minus 27 over negative 2 minus negative 2. That would give us, we could keep change, negative 36 over 0. If 0 is in your denominator, that means the slope is undefined, which means that it is a vertical line. So our equation is x equals whatever the x value is. If y'all have any questions, let us know.